Okay, I want everybody, if you would, I want to do something before we even get started. I just want you to put your hand on your heart or your chest, and I want you to just repeat this after me. Say, I am not a mistake. I've been built and designed by God for God's purpose. I want to open my eyes and my ears so I can see and hear the truth. All right. Now, I want to talk about, I'm going to use this book. This is, actually this book, the writings in this book are older than the writings in the Bible. This is called the Sefer Yetzirah. And the word Sefer just actually means book. It's a Hebrew word. It just simply means book or writing. Yetzirah is the word that's used for God formed. The word formed, it's Yetzirah. So actually it's the book of creation. That's the title of this book. It's a very small book in its original language. It's only like 1,500 words. So actually it's made up of, if you used a full page, it would be made up of less than 2 pages. But if you notice this book right here, this book has 400 pages. And anybody, if you get any book where there are only a few people who have deciphered the Sefer Yetzirah. There's not many. Most of them are Hebrew scholars, and this one is Aryeh Kaplan, which he's done a very extensive work on this book. But it's like, I want to use a word here. Let's see, I think I wrote this word down. Where did I write that word down? Well, maybe I didn't write that word down. Synodochi. Y'all real familiar with that word, right? Sure you are. Synodochi. Well, you use it a lot, but you don't know that you use it a lot. Synodochi, actually, it's a word that just simply means a part of something that's used to refer to like a whole thing. In other words, it's like putting pieces of a puzzle together, so the pieces are parts.
Can I speak, because that's hilarious that you just said that, because I was going to ask to do this later anyway. Something I actually had come to mind and posted on Facebook earlier this week. Let's see if I can find it here. Life can be like a jigsaw puzzle. Keep searching for the next piece and know this. God did not create us with missing pieces.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
That's good. That's synodochi. So that's a new word for you, the word for today. Synodochi, and it just actually means that. It's a word that has to do with parts that refer to the whole thing. And so this book is a companion book to the Genesis story. And if you don't, how many of you have ever heard of the book of Jasher? The book of Jasher is quoted several times in the Bible. Now, they quote from the book of Jasher in the Bible, but they don't have the book of Jasher in the Bible. They left it out. But in the places where Jasher is quoted, if you've read the book of Jasher, it clarifies what was said.
Is it in the Catholic Bible? Because they have
No,
extra
the book of Jasher's not in
Yeah,
it.
they
No,
have
it's
a
not
lot
in
of
it.
extra books in that.
No, but it's easily, actually you can actually buy the book of Jasher in a Christian bookstore. I mean, I bought mine 30-something years ago in a Christian bookstore.
They still exist?
I'm sorry?
Christian bookstores still exist?
I don't know. I don't know where there's any at.
There's one in Cleveland up there in the Church of God country, I can tell you that.
There really is?
Yeah.
I don't think there's one in Dalton any longer, and the one that was used to be in Chattanooga, it's gone out of business, so.
There's one in, well, but Cleveland's the Church of God headquarters, and there's one called the White Wing Christian
Okay.
bookstore up there.
I mean, you know,
On Keith
Books
Street.
A Million and Barnes and Noble have put in some of the smaller mom and pop bookstores. Like, actually, Connie and I had a Christian bookstore here in Dalton. When we first started, we started our own Christian bookstore. And it didn't last long because not that many people go buy the books. So, but anyway, we had one, and so this book, I'm going to use this, I'm going to quote from it. There's some things in this book that if you never read this book and all the illustrations, this book is full of illustrations and all kinds of things to clarify many of the Hebrew concepts. So when you're reading the book of Genesis and you don't have a companion, you know, I think a few weeks ago I talked about the book of Genesis, or we call the Genesis story the creation story. That's what it's called, which is not a bad title. I mean, that's fine. It's a good title. But it's not the first creation story that was ever told. The Epic of Gilgamesh, I quoted from that, I used that. I have that book also, which predates the Genesis story. And much of the Genesis story is drawn from the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Wow.
But see, if we don't know these things, and you read something and people are telling you from a Christian perspective, this is a history and it's a literal story, when it's not. It was not ever intended to be a history or a literal story. It is a book about the temple of God, or the home of God, or the dwelling place of God, which is you. And it tells us that. It tells us very clearly, do you not know that your body is God's temple? So where does God live? God lives in here, in my body. But that's a real difficult concept to get over, because Christianity has taken God out of the human body and put God out yonder in a place that they call heaven.
That's right.
So most all of us, whether we consciously think about it or unconsciously think about it, most of us have this concept that God's out yonder in heaven somewhere. And He's watching you, and He's watching what you're doing, He's listening to what you're saying, and He's writing it down. He's taking a list.
How do you get that from Paul's statement?
To learn to be
How can you separate the two but accept everything else Paul said?
Well, it's just a concept that people have. It's a concept that comes to us through literalist, historical Christianity. They have sold us that idea for so many hundreds and hundreds of years that we automatically think that way. So, you know, I can just say the word heaven and everybody's mind goes way out there somewhere. You don't ever hardly see anybody who, if they'll hear the word heaven, would think about themselves and say, I am heaven. You know, I think when I hear it, I'm so ingrained in the Hebrew, I hear the word heaven, I'm thinking about my upper part spiritual, my lower part physical, and the two come together, that's heaven. That's where heaven's at. It's where the two, the upper and the lower, have met. And God is in the midst. And I'll talk about that. God being in the midst of that. And the scriptures are geared toward that direction, but we have to clear up things. And again, that's where that word synodochi comes back in. If we can understand the usage of that word and realize how that certain parts refer to the whole picture. But if we don't get the parts right, have you ever tried to force a piece in the wrong place in a puzzle? Say, well, it's close. It almost will fit. Well, that's what they've done to us in a lot of things. And so I may try to read some things. Let me just do this up front about this book. How many of you have ever heard this word, abracadabra? Of course you have. Abracadabra. Y'all have all heard, right? Abracadabra. That is actually a Hebrew word. Abra, that's how it, abra, kaf, ka, ad, bra. So actually it's the first word with a kaf in the middle said backwards for the second word. And actually what the word means, as I speak, I create. That's what the word means in Hebrew. As I speak, I create. Abracadabra.
You could actually say that at the end of a prayer.
So if you keep that in mind and you realize whatever I'm saying, I'm creating. Whatever is coming out of my mouth, whether I'm conscious of it or I'm unconscious of it, whatever is coming out of my mouth are seeds being sown. That's why Jesus said, well, 30% of them go this way, 60% of them go this way, and the rest of them go this way, and thank God they don't all come up. Aren't you glad? Because you ever said a lot of words that, oh, I'd like to draw that one back. Just pray for crop failure. Pray that some of those words that you say do not happen or don't come up. Okay, if you will, go with me to Genesis chapter 1, and I want you to follow me with something here and see if we can take pieces of this puzzle and put them together in such a way that you will begin to see a broader picture and or a clearer picture of what it's saying. It's using story forms, and you have to remember, stories is one of the best ways to communicate an idea, period. But the story is a story. Even though you may have characters in a story, they don't necessarily mean that they're historical, literal, and or real. You use a story. It's just like the story of The Wizard of Oz. All of y'all seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, hadn't you? Or read the book The Wizard of Oz? You know, you've got the 10 men. You realize those characters are not real.
That's right.
Right? The straw man, he's not real, even though it looks like he's real on the movie. No, I mean, I saw him walking down the road, you know, the 10 men, he looked like he's real. They're not real. So when I say that, I'm saying now many of these stories, if not most of them, or all of them in the Bible, are not real. They're like 10 men and straw men. But they are symbolic, and so they have great importance in their context or in the way that they're used. And if I can take that and apply that with knowledge, then I can see the picture clearer. Otherwise, it don't make sense if you take it literally. And you know that it don't. People are afraid to be honest and say, yes, I know snakes don't talk. People are afraid to do that. I mean, especially, but Brother Lynn, back then, and besides that, I know that snake stood straight up and had legs on the back of his tail because he's got 2 little knots there where there used to be some legs, and God cursed him and said, you ain't going to do is walk no more, you're going to crawl on your belly. See that? I mean, you know good and well, some about that don't fit right. You know, and how many of y'all eat an apple every now and then? Well, you know good and well, Adam and Eve was eating that apple, and that got them in a lot of trouble. And there ain't no apple tree there, folks. There's just not an apple tree there.
That's right.
So, you know, when you take these stories and you begin to look at these stories in light of other information that gives a clearer picture, then you realize, wow. And what I would really, my intent is trying to get all of us to say, wow, and look at me, look at myself clearer, and realize I'm not what the world has said that I am. I am truly God's creation. I'm not flawed. I'm not a mistake. I am truly God's creation. I'm a miracle. So if you look at yourself and you start to think about that, I'm a miracle, and then not only am I a miracle, I'm all powerful. And my words are filled with power because my words are God's words. They're creative. So I'm creating, abracadabra, I'm creating while I'm speaking. So again, coming back to that very core part to know myself. That's the ancient aphorism above the doors of any temple. Know thyself. So Genesis 1:26, if you look at this with me. Genesis 1:26. It says, and God said, let us make man in our image. There is no Hebrew word for our. So that's just an added word. There's no Hebrew word for the English word our. So, you know, if we use the word our, me, mine, and ours, we're using that to kind of, in a plural sense, to incorporate something, right? But this actually, what this says right here, and God said, let's make man in an image. And so that word in an image, the word image here and man is important. So you have to kind of get the picture now. Two words that's used back and forth in Genesis account is the word man and the word Adam. They're the same word. And so I say they're the same word. I say it, I do it. I'm going to spell that one word up here. It's spelled in Hebrew, Aleph, Dalit, Mem. That's how it's spelled in Hebrew, and it's the word Adam, A-D-A-M, or it's the word man, M-A-N. And here's the sad scenario about the use of these two English words. When you and I read these two English words, we are thinking of a male character, period. See, and that's not what this word means in Hebrew. Adam, Aleph, Dalit, Mem, actually it means humankind, so it refers to both male and female. So if you were to go through there, in every place you read, well, let me back that up, because not every place, because they use the word man in English loosely when the Hebrew does not. In other words, there are some places in here where the word man is used in the English translation, and it's the Hebrew word Esh. And of course, the Hebrew word Esh is obviously not Adam. It's Esh. Spelled different, sounds different, means different. That's generally the case, right? And I use this analogy. I said, you know, my car is not my tractor. So my Adam, my vehicle, my body, is not my tractor, my work. Right? You don't get in your tractor and go to Florida.
No,
Right?
right.
It would be foolish. It would take you a long time. So you're not going to do that. So why do they do that? Why do they take a word, different Hebrew words, and use one word, Adam or man? Well, I suspect that the problem of them doing that is to continue to manipulate and control you and me. And we haven't thought about it that way, but that's my thoughts on why they've done. They're smart enough that they know better. I mean, the Hebrew scholars knew better. They knew the difference in Esh and Adam. They knew the difference. They had to know the difference. But they go through here and they say, well, we're trying to tell a story. Let's manipulate the words so that they can't get the concept and the idea of what's really being said. Because when you look at the word Adam or the word man, you're talking about humankind. So when you talk about humankind, is that male and female? Absolutely. It's all of them. Red and yellow, black and white, doesn't matter man or woman. They're all precious in God's sight. They are all Adam. Tells you that in Genesis chapter 5. It tells you that very thing. Why they didn't go over and read that, I don't know. It said, and God called their name, man and woman, He called their name Adam. Both of them, man and woman. So why didn't they just say humankind? That way it kind of gets so you can say, well, God made humankind. God formed humankind as its image, as its house, the place that God desires to live. Because, you know, to just say the word God from a Christian perspective or religious perspective, most people are going to draw anthropomorphic ideas. I mean, aren't you? Most people, when you say God, don't you see an old gray-headed man? Most people have been taught to think an old gray-headed man. How many of you ever seen an old gray-headed woman when you said God? No. But God is hermaphrodite. God is both male and female. Because God is energy. God is essence. God is power. God. So, these words, if we go through here and we get these words, in some part of a correct concept and idea, this whole book will change for you. I will guarantee it. Everything will change. When you realize that Genesis 1, 2, 3, and 4 does not describe a story of a man and woman who rebelled against their Creator and didn't obey what He said and followed the words of a talking snake. And as results of doing that, God got angry and God said, okay, y'all are in trouble now and I'm just going to kill you. I'm just going to destroy you, wipe you out and start all over again because y'all just obviously got something missing. You're not going to work. That's the idea you've been given. That's the idea that we think, and that's the idea that we hold on to, and that's not true. Nothing went wrong. Everything works exactly the way God designed it to work, and it still works that way. The problem with that, which there really is no problem, but the problem with that is if everything works and nobody made a mistake, nobody failed, nobody sinned and caused the whole human race to fall into the pit and be hell-bound. The problem with that is if that didn't happen, then you do not need to redeem man
That's right.
to draw him out of the pit.
Yes.
And that really
Yeah.
has a lot of repercussions as you go through the rest of the books.
Ooh.
But if you can realize that the rest of the books are about the deposit of God in the physical body, and that deposit of God in the physical body is there not to control the body, but it's there to fulfill the body. And the only way it can do that is if the body of its own volition decides to raise up that power within itself. And that's called the resurrection. So all the ancient stories talked about the resurrection, but it was the resurrection of the God-man, i.e. God in man. All of the stories, whether it go into Greek mythology, Babylonian mythology, Egyptian mythology, or any of the ideologies, all of them had to tell this story. And the story is God's in you. What are you going to do about it? God's in you to heal you, to prosper you, to energize you, to be any and everything that you need. What are you going to do about it? And I never heard of that. I didn't know that. That's because we didn't get the story right.
The God in man actually becomes God as man.
Exactly. Exactly. So when you look in the mirror, you're looking in the face of God. And everybody thought, well, I'm looking in the mirror, I'm looking at the devil.
That could be true too.
Not realizing, now listen to this, Greek mythology, dues daemon inversa, that's a word that's used in Greek mythology, is that the demon is your image in reverse. So, the culprit that keeps us stuck in many of the trenches or ditches that we get stuck in is my own self. And I can call it the devil. I can blame it on Lucifer, the devil. You know, and I'm going to get onto that one day, and not today, I don't think, but Lucifer is used one time in the King James Bible only.
That's right.
It's not even used in the New American Standard, New International, or some of the newer translation, Amplified. As a matter of fact, I would encourage any and every one of you, if you don't have an Amplified, get you an Amplified, go to Isaiah 14 and read the footnotes. There's a half a page of footnotes on the word Lucifer from the Latin in the Amplified Bible. And those notes are excellent.
From the Latin? So it wasn't Hebrew and it wasn't Greek.
No, it's not in Hebrew or Greek. It's not in one.
Latin put it in for one
It's just in
word
Latin.
in one place.
One place. And you know, you all have been told, and you all have, you know, coming back to this word synodochi, you've been told of this word Lucifer referring to something it doesn't refer to.
That's right.
The word Lucifer is a word in Latin that describes the planet Venus that 6 months out of the year rises before the sun rises, And the planet Venus is called the bringer of light. In other words, it's saying that that planet, because it rises before the sun rises in the morning, that planet is pulling the sun up out of the darkness. And that's what Lucifer was about in Latin. It's referring to Venus that pulls the light out to where you can see the light. So, Lucifer was an aid to bring the light. And that's what the word means, the bringer of light. And what have you been told? And you believed it. That's the whole thing. People, oh, we got to believe this. You got to get out of your beliefs.
Yeah.
Your beliefs.
He's even got his own show.
Like the deceiver.
Show Lucifer.
Really? Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. I forgot about that.
The deceiver. You know, Lucifer is the deceiver. That's what.
That's what they told us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. All you have to do is look it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that easy. It's that simple. People, I never thought about looking it up. I just heard what the preacher said. Don't trust what the preacher said.
That's right.
Don't even trust the thing I say. I mean, look it up for yourself. I don't ask anybody. Don't believe anything. Check it out.
The saddest thing is, though, Lynn, it didn't belong there anyway.
No, it didn't.
One Latin word thrown into a Hebrew group of
Exactly.
stories that preceded a group of Hebrew
Yeah.
language stories. One Latin word. Why was it thrown in there in the
And
first
boy, I'm
place?
telling you, it did get a lot of attention over the years. And a lot of stories built from it. A lot of lies.
A lot of lies.
And we have really embraced the lie and called it the truth. And I know, I realize what I'm saying many times is hard on the ear because they say, oh my God. And we have, we write books and we've built concepts and we've built ideologies. And you say, you're tearing all of my castle down. Good.
Right.
We need to tear the thing down. It is a sand castle, and whenever the real storms of life come, it does not stand.
Yes, that's right.
Truth will always stand. So, you are made as God's image. You are. You're the house. You're the home. You're the place that the source that we call God has designed and has built. Okay, I want you to look with me in Genesis chapter 2. Just flip up a page there. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. I'm sorry, let's go to verse 9. I was working on the word form, Yetzirah, which I use in this book from Sefer Yetzirah. Verse 9, Genesis 2:9. It says, and out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that's pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life, also in the middle. Everybody say middle.
Middle.
You see the King James translation? It's midst,
Yes.
in the midst. Actually, the word midst is tavok. Tavok. And actually, the word, I'm going to put this on the board. This is called the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. This is the tree of life because this is what we're talking about. And, okay. This is called the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. It's made up of 3 sets of trinities. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's made up of 3 sets of trinities. It's called the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. And so, this word right here, tavok, in the midst, is, I'm going to show you right here. This is called, in Hebrew, that's something that's there and it's not there. And it's probably one of the most important things that's there that's not there. Okay? And once you start to see that's there, that's not there, that's in you, wow, it changes stuff. You begin to, oh, really? And so if you'll look at this again with me, in verse 9, out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that's pleasant to the sight, good for food, the tree of life also in the midst. Now the tree of life also in the midst. Now this is the same tree. This tree has a trunk and fruit, okay? And then this is the tree, okay? The tree of life. The Hebrew word life is the word che. Che. And actually you cannot see the life that's living you. You can't see it. You can't see the life. You can't. Can anybody in here see the breath that's in this room?
No.
Breath is in this room.
Yeah.
You cannot see it. But if you did not take it into your body, you ain't going to live.
That's right.
I mean, stop breathing. I tell you what, has anybody got a stopwatch? Let's go ahead and stop for 2 minutes.
It can be done, but you gotta train yourself to do
Yeah, you
it.
have to build up to that.
You got it? Really? But you
Yeah.
can do it. You can do it. But see, most of us say, I can't hold my breath for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes,
No.
7 minutes. Go beyond 10 minutes and you're gone. Can't see it, but it's here. Well, you know what that's called in Hebrew? Ruach, spirit. Do you know what spirit is? God is spirit. You mean to tell me, Brother Lynn, God's filling this room and I can't see it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. God's filling this room and you can't see it. But every time you inhaled, you took God in you. And do you know what God does every time you inhale? You need to pay attention to your breath. Pay attention to your breath. Learn to breathe deep. Deep breath takes God deep into your being. And when you take that breath deep into your being, it goes through your nose, into your lungs, and out of your lungs, into your blood system. And you can take a pin and prick anywhere on your body, and what do you think will come out? Blood. You can prick the bottom of your foot with a pin. I mean, you know, your whole body's filled with blood. It's filled with God. Leviticus tells you, Leviticus 7, that the life of the body is in the blood.
That's right.
And the life is, the blood is what the blood is because the air, the ruach, God goes into your body. You're the house, you're the temple, you're the living place where God is at.
That's right.
Now, that means you are all powerful and don't know you're all powerful. That means you have unlimited ability and don't know that you have unlimited ability. And what you've convinced yourself of is, I'm limited, I'm stuck here, I'm just the way I am, I'm only human. No, you're not just human, you're divine. You're divine, and you have divine essence, you have divine ability, and you have divine power. Look at this word midst. That's the word middle. And actually the word means core. Here's what it means, core. And here's what we use a lot. I'm guilty of this, and I'm trying to work to where I don't use it as much. Here's what we use a lot is we say H-E-A-R-T, heart. Right? If I'm talking about your heart, if I said that the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge, see the tree of life, the air, the life of a tree is in the root system of the tree. It's not in the leaves. It's not in the part of the tree that you can see. It's in the part of the tree that's under the ground that you can't see. If you destroy the root system of the tree, will you see the top of the tree? It'll die, it'll wither, it'll be gone. The life of the tree is in a dimension you can't see. It's under the ground. That's the life. Now the fruit of the tree, Ra and Tov, you can see that. In other words, the left and the right side of the tree. You can stand and look at the tree and you can see the right and you can see the left. You can see what the tree is. You can see the fruit, the results. Jesus said you'll know a tree, what? By what you see. Right? That's the tree of the knowledge of, that's here, this word right here. That's in the midst. That's in the core, heart. Now if I said heart, what do you think? Show me what you think if I say heart. I'm saying heart, show me what you think. Exactly.
The thumper.
Right here, that's it. That's what you think. Your thumper. Now if I said your core, what do you think? See, now if I said core, you have to think deeper because now you're not just limiting it to your heart. Where is your core? Well, your core is from the top of your head to your sexual organ and everything that's in the midst thereof. That's your core. Just like right here, the top, this is the tree, Kabbalistic tree of life. It's all in this book right here, the Sefer Yetzirah, is more about this, the tree of life, than anything else. That's what this book is about. But that's also what Genesis 1, 2, 3, and 4 is about, but we just don't know how to extract it. Religion has blinded us and sidetracked us. So when you get right here to this passage where I'm at right now, it's hard to get past that and see really all that this is saying. Because he's saying right here in the midst, in the core of this tree, right here, the core is going to go all the way up through the tree, and you can see that in a tree, and you call it the core of the tree, don't you? But it's also called the heart. You can look at all the little stripes. If you cut the tree down, all the little stripes, you can look at that one right in the middle, and you call that the core. That's the heart. That's the life. That's where it's all at. So, he says right now, in the midst, in the core of the tree. That word midst is used in Genesis chapter 1, it's used in Genesis chapter 2, and it's used in Genesis chapter 3. And it's very important. And in each place, it's always referring to the core. Now, this little dotted thing right here is connected to the core. I'm just going to draw it up and down. Connected to the core. This comes out of the unknown, and it's called De'at, and it's translated from the word knowledge. And actually, it just simply means a divine ability or a divine knowing. It's something that's inside you. It's something that's within your being, and it's something that you know. If I said knowledge, many times you can think of, well, he's got a lot of knowledge, and you would associate that. He's read a lot of books. What if he hadn't read a lot of books and he's still got a lot of knowledge? That kind of stuff, huh? How does that work? Well, that's Sag Garu. That's the way Sag Garu is. He hadn't read a lot of books, but he's probably considered one of the wisest men on the face of the earth. Got a lot of knowledge. Where does he get it? He got it right out of his core. You can do the same thing. You and me can learn to tap into the core of my being. How do I do that? I can do it through meditation. I can do it through prayer. I can do it through breathing. I can do all kinds of different practices, and I can tap into my core. When I tap into my core, I'm tapping into the De'at. It's a window. It's a door. And that window or door is into the divine, i.e., God. It's into essence. And so all that's happening right here in this book that's beginning to do a picture of a physical body. I do the little stick man for the physical body because it is the physical body. And I always do the yin and the yang on your core, your heart, because it combines, you know, the yin and the yang, half of it's white and half of it's black. And the reason it's that is because it refers to your divine nature and your physical nature as one nature.
going up and down with your endocrine glands or your karmas, that center area is green.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you've drawn many times where the endocrine system makes an X and it crosses right there in the middle.
Yeah.
And what does Genesis tell us about the two trees in the midst? Part of what you're right here talking about.
Core.
The knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life are just two sides of the same tree.
Exactly.
In your core,
Same
in
thing.
the center of the what? The garden? What color do you think of when you think garden? You think green.
Green.
And that's right in your endocrine system, your karma system. That's the color that spirit, we can call all these other religions, that spirit gave that.
Amen. Yeah.
Your
So
garden
this-
is right there.
This that I draw here is Genesis 1:1 through Genesis 2:4. It's called the 7 yawns. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 endocrine glands, 7 facets of your life. That's this right here in the middle. This is in the midst, in the core. And so when you start to see this, and I want you to see what's happening in this picture as we read through this book, because this is an anatomical book, biological book about the physical body. You, in other words. It's a picture of you and how you are marvelously and wonderfully made and put together. You're not a mistake. You're exactly what God made. Now, do you make mistakes? Of course you do. Why? You live in a dimension of hot and cold. And God put you here on purpose, for that purpose, so that you can see what the hot feels like, you can see what the cold feels like, you can see what that tastes good, you can see what don't taste good, but that's according to your palate. You know, a lot of people don't like hot, spicy food. Right? I don't know what the problem is.
Doesn't agree with them, it hurts. It
Right,
burns.
Kirby?
That's right. How
It
do you-
burns.
It burns. It's good.
A lot of people don't like liver, like me.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I like cat's liver, chicken liver. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, so everybody has taste buds that's different. And the only reason they are is that's just how you have trained yourself.
You don't realize it, but a lot of it's how mama trains you with what she fed you
And-
all your life.
And that's true, because when we grew up on the farm, our parents made us eat stuff that we didn't think, "Well, I don't like that," eat it anyway. So we had to eat it anyway. So I love spinach, I love turnip greens, you know, things like that. A lot of people don't like it. So you know, I'm not teaching diet, and diet, you know, that your diet's good, bad, right, or wrong. Your diet's what your diet is, you know. I'm not into keto, even though it's good if that's what, but I do like a good old red steak every now and then, you know. I really do. Or even a little quacking chicken. I mean, you know, everything's chicken anymore. They kill alley cats. That was chicken. It tastes just like chicken. Everything's chicken. That's it. We ate some alligator down there. Said, "Oh, it tastes like chicken." It's alligator. No, it's chicken. It tastes like chicken. So, all right, let's read on here. Let me see if I can get through. I'm really belaboring something here. Verse 10. Now I want you to think what I'm drawing you a picture of. I'm drawing you a picture. This is your physical body. And I'm drawing it out of these passages of Scripture. This is your physical body. And in the core of your physical body is the divine essence of God. It's moving up and down, up and down. And the reason it's doing that, God created you. God built you. God designed you, not as a mistake, but God built your physical body as its house, its temple, its dwelling place.
Right.
So therefore, that is the real purpose of God in the earth, is your physical body. So you're wanting to get rid of this body because you want to go trade it in and get another one somewhere, or you're just saying, well, when I get to heaven, I'll have a better one than the one I got now. You got the one you got now because that's the one God built and designed for you to have now. Own it. Hallelujah. Quit trying to get rid of it. Own it. Begin to realize this. It's marvelous. It's wonderful. Then verse 10. Now a river. I remember years ago when I studied this, I could not find these 4 rivers. They don't exist in the Middle East. I mean, I went into all kinds of books and resources to try to find these 4 rivers. Even though some of these rivers exist, they use the typology of the names of these rivers to describe certain facets about your body. So what you're coming from now is out of the core, and out of the core, what you're going to do is now we're going to go to the heart. So you see the flow of this is perfect, it's beautiful, there's nothing wrong with it. So out of that, you're coming now, and so what we're talking about here, a river, and this river actually, the word is referring to a stream or a well or a spring of cosmic, divine, creative power. That's the reason they use a river. Ezekiel used this analogy of a river. And he said, there is a river, that in this river are all manner of fish, clean and unclean. Fish you can eat and fish you don't want to eat. But they all grow. And he said, in this river, you can play in this river ankle deep. You can wade into this river up to knee deep. Or you can get out in this river waist deep, or you can plunge your whole self in this river and water's above your head. And those are 4 categories where people live at. And here again, we're describing this cosmic river of life is flowing in you. Well, where does it start? In 4 different... I have a big book in here on physical anatomy, and I have one on the blood system and the heart. And on the pictures of the heart, there are 2 main large arteries that flow up to the upper anatomy, up into this part of your body. 2. And then there are 2 main arteries flowing down to the lower anatomy of the physical. So you have the upper divine, you have the lower human. And God has put the 2 together. And what do you have right here? 4 rivers. It's amazing. It's amazing. Watch these 4 rivers. It says in verse 10, it says, the river flowed out of Eden. That word Eden actually can be translated for time. Because that's where God has put you. God has put you in the garden. Garden is the Hebrew word gan, and actually means a protected place. Your body is a protected place for the divine essence to live in, to be in. And it's in you. And so, the waters, verse 10, a river went out of Eden, went out into time to water the garden, and from thence it parted and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, and the word actually Pison, it actually means the carrier of the highest degree. In other words, the Pison is referring to the Spirit. That's the first that's working in you. The Spirit is the highest degree of essence that you have. And that's what the word Pison means. And look where it says, and which compassed the whole land of Havilah. The word Havilah actually means to the inner travail, and it refers to a place that's inside you that's necessary for you to bring forth your manifestation. That's what that place that this river is from. It's for you to come out of the core of your being and bring forth your manifestation. All right, then the name of the second river is Gihon, and the word Gihon actually means movement, and it's referring to the divine breath that goes into the blood, into the lungs, and flows into the blood. And it's from, notice it says where this river is at, Gihon, who compasses the whole land of Ethiopia. Ethiopia means darkness. Darkness refers to physical matter. Physical matter is called dense darkness. And that part of this river flows into the whole physical body from the top of your head to the tips of your toe, through this blood, through this system of the heart. And then verse 14, it says, in the name of the third river was Hiddekel. Hiddekel just simply means generative fluids, and the generative fluids are those fluids that flow out of your gonads or out of your organs. That's the fluids that this is referring to, the generative fluids. And this one right here, Hiddekel, that goes forth toward the east in Assyria, and the Assyria has to do with physical and or sensual movement. So all I'm doing is I'm taking these names, and you can actually get a book and it will help you to see what these different names mean in metaphysical terms. And that's all you have to do is you just take and realize, oh, okay, so yeah, there is a place of Syria. Yeah, but what does that name mean in metaphysical terms? And when you start to look at that and you realize, wow, it refers to the physical body and all of its different aspects. So you take a name, you think it's a country, and you realize, oh, it's referring to certain facets of the physical body and how the body is designed to work and how that it does work. Okay, then come down to verse, where did I get to? Verse 14. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goes toward the east in Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. And the Euphrates is referring to the entire blood system itself. The blood that flows from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. So these four rivers actually talks about the four different aspects of life that flows inside your physical body. And the places are descriptive of different facets of the physical body, so that you realize that that's in the midst, or that's in the core of you, which is your heart, your thumper, you know, that's flowing from the core, from the top of your head. That's what this is all about. And from here, when we get into Genesis story, when we start to unfold this story, we get into Genesis 22, 23, and 24, then we get into the nervous system, because now this is referring to the blood system and the physical flow of life that goes all over the physical body. Then the next system that he's going to begin to talk about in this unfoldment will be the psychological system, which to me, even though it's listed as part of the last system, is one of the most important systems that's in the physical body. And we missed it. We didn't realize that the Esh and the Esha was referring to my psychological being, where I'm at. And most every one of us are stuck there somewhere. We have more psychological problems than we have physical problems, because generally it's your psychological problem that's affected your physical problem. And you get the psychological problem straightened out, your physical part will just of itself heal itself.
Hallelujah.
So where is the problem become more? In the psyche. In that very place that we lack enough teaching, and this unfolds it beautifully in the last half of the second chapter and all into the third chapter, dealing with this psychological system of the Esh and Esha, which was called the husband and the wife. Had nothing to do with Adam marrying an Eve. Nothing at all. It had to do with your right brain in union with your left brain, and the two of them creating the offspring of your life. And that is a phenomenal picture.
Yes,
Once you start seeing it, say, oh God, you mean it makes sense? Yeah, it's just exactly when we get the synecdoche, the pieces of the puzzle, in the proper places, and let them reflect the greater pictures of the whole puzzle. And that's what we're going to do. So that I can begin to see myself clearer, and I can begin to realize that I'm not a mistake. My life has not been a mistake.
right.
My life has been a divine purpose that I've been walking out. Did I get stuck in some of the ditches? You sure did. But you know, it's time to get out of the ditch. You know, and maybe even right now there may be some help to pull you out of your ditch. You know, grab hold of it. Grab hold of the truths and let these truths begin to pull us and draw us out of the places that we have been so stuck in our own ignorance. Hello, have you ever been there? I get there a lot, you know. My own ignorance created some of my chaos. Not all of it, but some of it.
Yep.
But when I start to shed some light on it, I begin to see the truth. The truth is designed for one purpose. Not to prove anything, but to set you free. That's what the truth's all about. You shall, Jesus said it, John 8, you shall know the truth. I'm not talking about believing. I'm not talking about trying to believe this or trying to believe that. I'm talking about knowing what's going on in the core of your being. And realize that what's going on in my core is there is a divine essence, a divine power, a divine ability, and I'm breathing it every moment of my life I'm living. Hallelujah.
You know, when you put a puzzle together, you start with the border all the way around. And then you start going to the inside. If you try to put a puzzle together from inside out, it would just be really hard. You'd get there eventually, but it would take you a long time. So you form the border first and then go to the
Well,
inside.
now I know why I'm so screwed up. I always started wherever I could find pieces that fit together.
Okay. Hallelujah. Just to rewrite some concepts and ideas. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to rewrite some things that have maybe they've been written wrong. You know, give it the benefit of the doubt. Give it that. And some people get stuck on things I say, and I know that. And they, oh my God, you don't believe that. It's not what I do or what I don't believe. It's just if the truth is the truth, then the truth will set you free no matter what you believe. And it's just opening, and it's difficult. I know it's difficult to open your mind. I mean, I've grappled through it myself. You don't know how often I've gotten angry and in studying some of this stuff. I get mad at God, you know. Yeah, but I thought, you know.
But again, Lynn, like you said, it from many different perspectives and ways that you look at it, you can still see the truth. You can take Christianity literally, which is actually not what they've done with what they presented us. It's not take that book literally. Jesus taught all about love. We used to sing a chorus in the charismatic circle, 1 John 4, 7, and 8. For he that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. Paul, you know, we mentioned earlier, how can they ignore what he said? Don't you realize you are the temple? So that's in the middle of their truth. They just talk. So even if you want to see it from a more literal sense, those words, they didn't teach what we're being taught they said.
Yeah.
They really didn't.
So, just another picture,
Yeah, it's...
another way of looking at who you really are. Not a mistake. A divine individual.
And no missing pieces.
I saw that when you was talking about the sandcastle.
Mm-hmm.
I saw many people living in a sandcastle.
Yeah.
And here comes the rain, here comes the wind, and it has to blow that outer crust off of you. And when it's off, out comes the light.
Yeah. Well, Jesus said in Matthew 7, he said, the storms will come.
Yeah.
I mean, that because, you know, and here again, and we get all the way down into the curse. Because that's a really bad word to use for tension, because this is a world of tension, of hot and cold. Nothing here grows without it. And when we realize that the name Eve, Ha'eva, actually means the life of everything living. It wasn't a woman that was joined to a man. It's the life of everything living. The tree out there has got Ha'eva in it.
That's the way I understood it too.
So when we start to see that and we realize, and the only way that life of everything that's living will live is it has to have the tension. It has to have a sunrise and it has to have a sunset. It has to have a hot, it has to have a cold. And without that, it will not have life. And you know what? We translated that for curse and thought God was mad. It's really a real poor choice of words that the translators use. And when we see that, you got all your core, you got your rivers, you got your life flow, you begin to realize, hey, that Nachesh serpent happens to be this energy flowing in my core. And if I don't have that energy flowing in my core, then I won't know that I am the image and the manifestation of God. And it tells you, they're going to know that they're like God. And we thought that's a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, anybody questions or comments or anything else? Hallelujah. Okay.